Hey there! Welcome back to another review, this time of the 2017 action-adventure monster movie, Kong, Skull Island. And this is a film that I saw pretty soon after it came out, and it really surprised me. I had a blast in the theater. I thought it was a very enjoyable, entertaining, fun, fast-paced, thrilling, throwback action-adventure movie that reminded me of some of my favorite action-adventure monster movies, like Congo, The Relic, Deep Rising. Had that kind of 80s, 90s action-adventure movie vibe, and I really loved it for that. And I saw it again to prepare for this most recent review, and it held up really well. And honestly, this most recent viewing has solidified Kong Skull Island's top spot on my best of 2017 list. Yeah, it's right up at the top. And that's over films like Logan, John Wick Chapter 2, Ghost in the Shell, movies that I liked. You know, there's a lot of films that I've liked from this year. So far this year has been really good for the most part in terms of the movies I've been looking forward to and I wanted to see have actually ended up being good, and movies that I liked, and there have been others that I've liked more than some of the other ones that I saw and was looking forward to. But for the most part, it just had a really good track record. The films that I don't like and I wasn't looking forward to, they haven't been very good. But the films that I did want to see and I was looking forward to, they haven't been disappointing, which is really refreshing. And this was one of those movies. And what's crazy about Kong Skull Island, it's a film I wasn't even interested in to begin with. At the start, I was not interested in the slightest about this film because Legendary Pictures was doing it. They're the same company that produced and delivered Goddamnzilla, the 2014 Godzilla movie, which was a goddamn disappointment. And I was just like, I don't want to get burned again. And the casting announcements didn't do anything for me. Tom Hiddleston, John Goodman, I liked him, but I don't know. He's probably not going to be in the film that much. Samuel L. Jackson, he's in every movie, so it's not like, whoa, he's in the movie. I'm definitely going to see it now. He's in every movie. And, you know, the other people, Brie Larson, I wasn't that familiar with. So it was just one of those things. And the director, Jordan Vogt-Roberts, hadn't directed anything like this before. He was a guy who did some Funny or Die shorts and did a independent teen drama before this and directed a TV movie called Cocked. So I was like, I don't know. Like, he wasn't really making me that excited for the film either. And then I saw a trailer for this movie before, I think, Logan, when I saw it, and it surprised me. And I was like, this looks like fun. This looks like an entertaining movie where it's finally what I want out of a Kong film. It takes place on Skull Island. They stay on Skull Island. We don't have this hour of trying to get there bullshit, or they only stay on Skull Island for a little bit, then they go back to New York City. None of that. You actually stay on Skull Island for the entire movie, which is for the rest of the film. Excuse me, and just thinking about all that, just if they did that again, if they just did the same thing, if they retreaded, if they just did a retread and went over the same paths as the other Kong films did, that gives me indigestion just thinking about it, because I'm just like, I just went through all that. I don't want to see another Kong remake where it's just the same thing. Thankfully, that's not what Kong Skull Island is. Kong Skull Island is one of the better examples of a reboot for me, because it's a reboot that does things the right way. It's a reboot that decides, hey, we're not going to do the same thing. We're not going to lazily copy and paste certain elements from the previous films into this either. What we're going to do is we're going to make a completely different movie. We're going to take things into a different direction, and we're going to make our own film that can stand on its own. And that's what they did here. They had an idea that was different, that I hadn't seen before, and I haven't honestly seen that very much of in the past with other films, with soldiers in the Vietnam era heading to Skull Island and fighting the monsters and the dinosaurs and the insects and dealing with Kong on Skull Island in that particular era. That was an inspired choice for a story, and that also really helped the film feel fresh and felt like, wow, okay, it's not telling the same Kong story I've heard a million times. And yeah, I really love this movie. I love Kong Skull Island. I cannot say that enough. I cannot express that enough. This film ticked all the right boxes for me. It was a blast. It was entertaining. It was a blast from the past. I haven't had this much fun watching a movie with apes in a jungle since Congo. And I would actually say I even like this more than Congo, and I like Congo. Now, Kong Skull Island is directed by Jordan Vogt-Roberts, who absolutely knocks his direction out of the park here. This is an impressive feat, because I had no hope for him, and he proved me wrong, and then some. Because this is some of the best direction for a film I have personally seen this year. You could feel the passion for the project and for the film, and for the type of film he was making through the screen. You could feel it. And I loved his choices. I loved the different sort of things he did to add his own unique stamp to the film. I loved the choices he made. Like, for example, he did a lot of POV stuff, which I thought was really inspired. When Kong first attacks a helicopter squadron, there's a POV shot. When you see Kong attacking the helicopter squadron, there's a shot as if you're in the helicopter while Kong is attacking it. And it's really well done. And that really just makes it so much more of an immersive experience to sit down and watch. The other bits and pieces, other times he did with a POV, like he has this stuff where it's kind of like a first-person shooter, and I like those little touches. I like his visual style. This guy has style. He knows how to really make a shot pop. The scenes with Kong behind the sun, and the helicopters are flying towards him, and he's like in a silhouette, and the sun's in the background. It looks like a shot straight out of Apocalypse Now, and it's a beautiful shot. It really is a really cool looking shot. The shot of when they're dropping the bombs to do the seismic test, and there's these explosions that are going off. There's a shot of this pilot, and he's smiling, and the explosions are reflected in his aviators. And I love that shot too. There's so many shots in this that are just really well done. When Kong shows up and has that moment where he shows how noble and honestly how humble and how much of a protector he is for Skull Island and people who are on there, in the scene where he interacts with Brie Larson for a bit. He comes out through the fog. I love the way that sequence is shot. I love the stuff where Kong shows up out of the fire. I like the use of the close-ups of Kong's eyes, and then cut and edited with the close-ups of Samuel Jackson's eyes or some of these other characters' eyes. I think the use of slow motion when it's used in this film is actually well done. It's not overused. It doesn't feel like it's unnecessary. The scene where Kong is attacking more of the helicopter squadron, and he's pouring out soldiers out of the helicopters like they're peanuts out of a can. The director, Jordan Vogt-Roberts, used slow-mo in a way that actually added to the sequence, because it really helped put you in Samuel Jackson's character's Preston Packard's shoes. He's looking at his squadron getting destroyed by this giant ape, and everything is moving in slow motion for him. That's why the term exists. I felt like everything was moving in slow motion. That's a real thing that people experience, and with using the slow motion for that particular sequence, it really added to that scene and put you in his shoes, once again making it a more immersive experience. The shots of Kong fighting, when he's fighting monsters or doing this other stuff, there's no shaky cam, there's no quick cut, there's no like flip the camera upside down, there's none of that shit. It's shot with a sturdy camera that stays in one place, and that enables the film to get the most out of the fight and for you to get to see all of the blows. So yeah, I cannot sing enough praises about Jordan Vogt-Roberts' direction. In fact, it will probably go down as being underrated as years go by, because this is a guy who I hope he gets more work, and it's a shame that he is not directing King Kong vs. Godzilla. It really is. Now, the film also features a script by Dan Gilroy, Max Borenstein, and Derek Connolly, and these were all screenwriters who didn't really work on the film together in the same room. They added some stuff, they did some rewrites and things like that separately from one another, but it doesn't feel like a script that has no focus. It doesn't feel like it's all three different people trying to shove in their ideas into the script, and there isn't really a bond or a connection with their ideas. They all fit together. And for the most part, I think this is a really great script. I love the idea of, like I mentioned earlier, of the soldiers encountering Kong. It's like Hamburger Hill meets King Kong. It's a nice combination. I liked that. A lot of critics have pointed out that the script has not enough character development, and the characters are paper thin. And I don't really have an issue with that. I don't. It's not a drama. It's not a war drama. It's not Platoon. It's not a drama where character development is necessary. It's an action-adventure movie. And I think if the film had more scenes of character development, it would just bog the film down and hurt the film's excellent pacing. So I think the character traits that you see, the little bits of personality and charisma that you see with these characters, is enough. It's enough for me. And I think with the soldier characters, I didn't need to know that much else about them, because that makes it so it's still an immersive experience, because it's like I'm tagging along with the research team on this mission. They don't know anything about these soldiers either. So it's fine with me that I don't know that much about them either. That's fine with me. But the little bits that I do get with these characters is fine, because I'm having fun. I'm having fun. They have fun personalities. They have great back and forth. They have good chemistry with each other. So they're having fun. So I'm having fun. And yeah, I didn't really have an issue with the character development, because that's not the type of, I wasn't expecting a lot of character development for this. I mean, Peter Jackson's King Kong is a prime example of a movie where character development alone doesn't make these characters likable, doesn't make characters likable or worth joining on a journey. Because those characters had a ton of character development, but to me personally, they were dull and they were boring. And I didn't like them. But the characters in this, they don't have nearly as much character development, but I like them because they're fun and they have personality, and I would love to join them on the ride. See, I really do like joining them for this ride that is the movie. So, no, I don't really think this film needed more character development. There's a lot of my favorite films that, like Deep Rising, for instance, doesn't have a lot of character development. There's a lot of movies that don't have that much character development with their characters. They have a lot of moments where they have a lot of personality and charisma, and that's enough. I don't need a ton of character development for me to be invested into the film. It's not necessary for me personally. It's not something I ever really need, unless it's a particular type of movie. Something like Backdraft, yeah, it helps that there's a lot of character development. Something like I said, Platoon, or some of these war dramas, it helps. Like Hacksaw Ridge, for instance. But this is an action-adventure movie. I don't need that. If the characters weren't exciting and fun, then yeah, I would have an issue with it. But I don't, because they're fun characters. And I am, in turn, having fun watching the film with these characters. I also thought the script had some really fun lines of dialogue. I love this back and forth, the witty banter back and forth between the soldiers. Especially with one of the older guys. I think it's a character played by Shea Whigham, Earl Cole. And I like the back and forth between him and one of the younger soldiers, and the whole sort of thing where he's like, it was a building sized giant monkey, and you just sit there and eat. And he's all like, yeah, that was quite an unconventional encounter. Yeah, or the whole thing where he's talking about the story of the mouse and the lion, and he's all like, yeah, I've heard of that story. That's a story where the mouse kills the lion with a thorn. And it was like, what? That's not how it goes. Like, who told you that? My mother. Well, that explains everything. So, I mean, I like stuff like that. You know, there's a lot of lines in here that make me chuckle. The stuff where the soldiers are all talking. One of the soldiers talking about he wants to go to an island for vacation. And he's like, yeah, I want to go to like an island like Key West. And he's like, Key West isn't an island. It's a key. So, I mean, that's the kind of dialogue. I love that kind of stuff. I like that kind of witty repertoire, you know, and, you know, back and forth between, or repartee or whatever. You know, this is kind of just back and forth between the characters that I thought was really well done. I also thought the script did a great job writing Kong as a protector of the island. He's not too sympathetic. He's a monster, but he's more of like a wild animal, which is really what he is. He's a wild animal. He's got a heart. I mean, he doesn't harm people who are innocent. He doesn't randomly just eat people just because. He's not that savage, but when he's attacked or threatened, he defends himself. So I thought that was a nice touch. The fact it was subtle bits where they showed Kong and showed how he's misunderstood in a way. He's not just this beast, savage beast. There's more to him. And I like the sort of stuff that they did where they have the whole, you know, the dynamic, you know, with Sam Jackson's character. He's the villain, and I thought they did a good job writing the character. You could understand his motivations, you know, put yourself in his shoes. Half his squadron got killed by this giant ape. He's seen war, and he realizes the destruction this ape is capable of, and these other creatures on this island. So in his mind, he's doing the right thing, trying to wipe this ape and these creatures off the face of the earth. And if you think about the potential damage they could cause, yeah, I mean, you can kind of understand his thought process. But at the same time, he's going about it the wrong way because he's obsessed with winning a war. He lost the Vietnam War, and so he wants to make sure he can win this war. John Goodman's character plays out kind of like a Moby Dick kind of character, but not as crazed. So there's that with that character. But really the best writing for character-wise was given to John C. Reilly's character, Hank Marlowe, who was a World War II pilot who was stranded on Skull Island for 29 years. And the most character development goes to his character, and I love that because he's the most interesting character. He's the most interesting character in the entire movie, so they give him the most character development. They give him the most character moments and scenes character-wise. And I think that was a really great choice because he's the best character. And he steals the show, not only because the character is so well written, but because the character is so intriguing. I'm invested in the film in multiple other ways, but just throwing in this character who is this castaway, who is lost in time, so to speak, just makes it an even more engaging film and an even better screenplay. So the script, though, it can't just be amazing or be brought to life by itself. You can't just have a good script and then, that'll just make the film great, and you can have any actors or any cast bring the script to life. You have to have a good cast to really do that, and I felt this film definitely had a great cast. Tom Hiddleston, he's top billed, but he really is not the lead. He plays this hunter tracker character who was hired by John Goodman's character Randa to navigate through the island, and I like him. I like Tom Hiddleston. I think he's effective when he's there and when he does stuff. I would have liked to have seen him do more, but I don't think he's a problem. Samuel L. Jackson delivers the solid performance you expect from him as Preston Packard. I liked how his character was a no-nonsense type guy, didn't take any bullshit. I like that. John Goodman was really well cast as Bill Randa, who is this senior official in this organization called Monarch, who was one of these last survivors of of a expedition, so to speak. There was like an expedition. There's an expedition that he was on a ship, and he was the last survivor. There was some creature that attacked it. I think it might have been Godzilla. And he wants to go to Skull Island and get proof that he's not crazy. Brie Larson, she plays Mason Weaver, who's a feisty photojournalist, and I liked her. She didn't have a lot of character development, but that was fine because she had personality, she had charisma. She wasn't just a pretty face. She wasn't just a character who just stood there with a blank look on her face. She wasn't like, what's her name? Daisy Ridley, not Daisy Ridley. She wasn't like the actress from not the Force Awakens, from Rogue One. I can't even remember her name. That's how little of an impression the actress left on me. That's how bad she was, in my opinion. The actress who played the lead in Rogue One, who really isn't the lead, but that's a whole nother story. I can't even remember her fucking name. That's how little of an impression she made. God. So she's just there with a blank. She's not like a blank look on her face character. She smiles, she cracks some jokes, she has some good chemistry with John C. Reilly and Tom Hiddleston. So, and she can also get shit done when she needs to. Jing Tian plays San Lin, who's a biologist who's working for Monarch, a character I thought could have been cut out of the movie. She's not the best actress. Thankfully, she doesn't get a lot of screen time. Toby Kebbell, who was Dr. Doom in the Fan 4 Stick movie, he plays one of the soldiers. He's the guy who has the whole sort of story arc where he's trying to write this letter to his son, and he has it as Dear Billy, and that's kind of a repeated sort of thing throughout the film. John Ortiz plays Victor, who's another one of the. He's this guy who's a Landsat official on the expedition. He's this guy who's just another character that didn't really need to be there, who gets eaten later. I have a life I need to get back to. Corey Hawkins plays Houston Brooks, who's the companion of sorts. He's a guy who is working with John Goodman's character. Jason Mitchell plays another helicopter squadron member named Glenn. Shea Whigham plays Earl Cole, who's this older, seasoned veteran who I mentioned earlier that I like his character. Thomas Mann plays another member of the squadron. Terry Notary and Toby Kebbell did dual work doing the mocap work for Kong, and they both did a great job. And John C. Reilly steals the show as Hank Marlowe. And it was as a character that I don't know, I didn't have a lot of hope for, because John C. Reilly is more known as a comedy actor. So I was afraid it was just going to be a comedic role, and that's all it was going to be. It was done for laughs. But that's really not the case. Like, there are a few moments where it's done for laughs, and they do make me chuckle. But there are other moments where it's played straight, and he actually pulls it off. So, yeah, I thought he did a great job. But anyway, yeah, John C. Reilly's character I really enjoyed. I liked the character. I thought it was an interesting idea. And he was also one of the big reasons why I liked the film so much. And also, the scene where he reunites with his son and his wife after all these years is one of the best scenes in the film. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, there are other aspects to the film's production and to the film itself that I thought were noteworthy. For one, I liked the score by Henry Jackman. I thought it was a really nice blend of 70s psychedelic era guitar and a few other sort of 70s era kind of instrumentation. And that was done on purpose, and I thought it was a great choice. That was a really good idea by Henry Jackman to try to sync his score up with the era that the film was taking place in. Cinematography by Larry Fong I thought was beautiful and gorgeous at times. This is one of those films that had some color filtering, but it was used the right way, and it actually enhanced certain sequences. It didn't detract from them. The editing by Richard Pearson, in my opinion, was top-notch, top of the line, really impressive. I think he deserves an Oscar nomination. He probably won't get it, but I do think this is some really great editing, and because there's a lot of stuff that goes on in this film. There's a lot of crazy things, different camera angles the director was trying to do, and the editor managed to put everything together in a very, very satisfying way that just takes the film to an even higher level because of the editing. The film has a good pace to it. It's 118 minutes, but it's really only an hour and 40 something minutes without the end credits. So it goes by at a really fast, really quick pace. That's one of the definite positives about the film, is how fast paced and how entertaining it is. And the movie costs about $185 million, and it's one of those films where the budget is all on the screen. There's not a bit of the $185 million that's not on the screen. And a lot of it, of course, is there for the sequences with Kong. And Kong himself, I love the design of Kong. It's a nice little combination of the best of both Kongs, like the 1933 Kong and the 1976 Kong. And I prefer this look of Kong over Peter Jackson's Kong. Peter Jackson's Kong was more of a giant gorilla, and this is more of the Kong that I love. And there's other things, the designs of the other creatures, the insects, the spiders, like these spiders that have, that's another thing. I'll talk about the spiders, and when I'm talking about one other positive I want to talk about after, the sort of effects wise. I mean, ILM really outdid themselves with the effects for Kong and for the other creatures. The skull crawlers, I like the design of them. I like the fact that they're in the film. It gives you a different adversary for Kong. It really ties into the whole thing where Kong is this protector of the island. And speaking of that, I really liked how the film portrayed the natives in this. They aren't savages. They aren't cannibals. They're not evil. They're actually quite nice. They're nice. They are intelligent. And it was refreshing to see the natives portrayed in such a fashion in a King Kong film. And I also really liked that this is a PG-13 film that really played its rating to the hilt. It was like, okay, we're going to get everything we can out of this PG-13 rating. It's got a really sharp edge to it. It's got some pretty intense sequences, which I was surprised they got away with. Like a sequence where there's a spider that puts its leg through this guy's throat. And there's other scenes like where there's blood that sprays. And so it is a really... one of the skull crawlers pukes up some guy's skull, and it's got blood and muscle on it. They really got the most out of the PG-13 rating. I mean, you got a scene in the film where you have that typical sort of moment where the good guys are trying to talk the bad guy down. Don't blow up Kong. It's more than that. This is about more. This is more than that. And I love Sam Jackson's reaction to that. He's like, "Bitch, please." That kind of little edge is nice. And it was nice to see. It was great to see a politically incorrect moment like that, too. I love that. And, even when Sam Jackson's about to get smashed by Kong, he's like, "Duh, you motherfucker." So, I mean, there's a lot of moments in this that really did get the most out of the PG-13 rating. It makes me wonder what this would have been like if it was R. Like, if it could go all the way. Might be even better. And that's hard to do, because this is a really fantastic, magnificent film, in my opinion. So the film's plot is also something that I think is a real pro, because once again, I love the idea of the soldiers versus Kong, and it has this nice setup to it. You have a great prologue that takes place in the 40s, nice way to introduce you to Kong and to Hank Marlowe's character. Flash forwards to 1973, you introduce to the Monarch characters, to John Goodman, and I think Corey Hawkins, who John Goodman and Corey Hawkins characters. They get permission to tag along onto a helicopter ride to Skull Island. They drop these explosives. Kong shows up in a way that is just awesome. It's a spectacle. He wreaks havoc. And They are now trapped on Skull Island and have to try to find a way to get it off the island. And they encounter all these other monsters and all these other insects and creatures. Kong fights off some of them. There's some nice moments where Kong is, just in his own environment, drinking water, grabs an octopus, gets in a little tussle with it, and then starts eating it like, he's just having a snack. He's just snacking on some calamari. It was nice to see Kong in his own environment. And it's a race against time to try to get off the island, but at the same time trying to prevent Sam Jackson's character, Preston Packard, from killing Kong, and also trying to prevent Kong from dying, so then these skull crawlers don't come out and essentially take over the island and then spread even further off the island. And then it culminates in this absolutely epic battle with Kong and the giant skull crawler that has some really great fight choreography. It's my favorite Kong fight in the entire franchise. There's a nice fuck you moment where Kong takes a propeller from a boat, wraps it around his fist, and just uppercuts the skull crawler with the propeller, and then rips its brain out by its tongue, because the skull crawler's trying to eat him. And he's actually saved Brie Larson's character. He has her in his fist because she fell, and he saved her out of the water from drowning. And this skull crawler is still trying to eat him, and he pulls the tongue out and then pulls the brain out with it. So Kong in this is a badass. And there's a cool moment that was it's akin to like the moment with the T-Rex, where they leave the island and it pans up, and Kong, you see Kong standing tall, and he just does his, and then yells, roars to the screen. It's just one of those things where it just captures the spirit of Kong so well. It shows you why monster movies like this are so much fun. It's so entertaining. And why they were missed so much. And it even has a really great, poignant, heartfelt moment at the end where the character played by John C. Reilly, Marlowe, he reunites with his family. He reunites with his wife and his grown-up son, and it was so well done. It affected me emotionally. I actually cried. I cried tears of joy, because it was a great moment. It was shot really well. I like the use of trying to make it look like a 16mm home movie. I like the score that Henry Jackman had for that scene. And it was a very well put together moment. You didn't have any dialogue. It wasn't necessary. It was just you had the music, you had the scenes, the reunion. It was sweet. It was heartfelt. There was a little bit of some kind of audio that was used, like when he's listening to the ball game again or something. But yeah, it was a very nice moment, and that is another thing that puts this film over the top for me, because they didn't have to do that. That moment did not have to be in the film, but they put that moment in the movie, and I'm so glad they did. And they even had a nice little preview of King Kong vs. Godzilla after the end credits as well. So yeah, I mean, there's just so much to like about Kong Skull Island. There really isn't a lot of things that I thought were wrong with it. The only things I personally found to be missing or lacking, or things that I didn't like about the movie, are very minor. And they are some of the characters, some of the scientist characters are just there. The Asian character, the Asian girl, who's just a love interest for Corey Hawkins' character. I don't really care for her. San Lin, I could have done without her easily. Thankfully, she's not in the film that much. I also would have liked to have seen Tom Hiddleston's character, James Conrad, do more. I liked him. I liked the little bit that he had where he's got a sword and he fucks up some flying dinosaurs, but I would have liked to have seen him do one or two more action sequences. And I also would have liked to have heard the song "We Gotta Get Out of This Place" in the film somewhere, because I thought that was used really well in one of the trailers, and I thought it would have been a good song to use for the soundtrack. I would have put it in the scene after the scene where John C. Reilly's character says, "You shouldn't have come here," they encounter the graveyard. I would have put in, "We gotta get out of this place." I would have put in that song at that particular moment instead of the score. But the score is fine. It sounds good, but I would have put that song there. And I might have repeated myself here. That's something that I mentioned earlier, and if I didn't, forgive me. But I just wanted to make that clear, because that's one thing that I thought was missing. But overall, these are very minor problems I have. They're very minuscule, and they don't affect my overall rating of the film and my enjoyment of the movie, because this is my favorite Kong film. This is my favorite King Kong movie. This film is 1A, and King Kong, the 1933 film, is 1B. This is a different type of movie. This is more of an 80s, 90s creature feature action adventure movie, while the 1933 film is more of a classic old-fashioned action adventure film. There are two different types of movies with two different tones and two different approaches. And both, I think, are really great. And they're tied in terms of their overall ratings, but if I had to pick between the two, I would probably pick Kong Skull Island. I loved it that much. And I don't know what else to say about the film, except if I was going to rate it out of 5 stars, I would give Kong Skull Island 5 out of 5 stars. 2 thumbs up, 10 out of 10. I know, I liked it that much. I thought it was that great of a movie. I personally feel that Kong Skull Island is a magnificent, mighty movie. It's a very entertaining, fun, fast-paced, thrilling, throwback action-adventure movie that I highly recommend. If you like your Kong movies or your monster movies to be fun and have their tongues planted firmly in their left cheek and not take themselves too seriously and just go along for the ride, then this is a film for you. And if this film sounds like something you're interested in, I highly recommend it. And I do feel that, if anything, it's underrated, considering how it's been kind of ragged on by some critics because, doesn't have a lot of character development. And that's why it sucks for some reason. I don't get it. I don't understand it at all. But that's just my personal opinion. If you feel that way, if you're not a fan of it, that's fine. To each their own. But I love this movie. And I don't know what else to say. I've talked your ear off enough about it. So, thanks for watching. And as always, I will see you guys later. See ya.